Dub Nation. After the final buzzer. This is where you come for instant post-game reaction.
Oh, hell yeah.
This is Dub's OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
Here's Curry from half court. Yes! A half court three for Steph Curry.
He's shaking one of his buddies on the baseline. I guarantee he told him he was going to make a half court shot tonight.
Half-court shot from Steph Curry and a grand All-Star Sunday for Stephen Curry. He walks away as an All-Star champion and an All-Star MVP, as well as the Shaq OGs win the NBA All-Star Tournament tonight as they win the finale 41-25. Stephen Curry ends up with 12 of the OGs' 41. And the All-Star game for 2025 is in the books here from San Francisco and the Bay Area. We welcome you in to a Dubs OT special edition here on KNBR and on YouTube and Twitch for KNBR as well. From Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City, and Harmonic is jumping. It's John Dickinson, and the great Greg Silver is with me as well. Greg, good to be with you tonight, my man. Harmonic jumping. It's been quite a weekend for the folks at Harmonic Brewing, and quite a weekend for the Bay Area and San Francisco in particular with the game that went on behind us tonight. Mixed reviews for a lot of different reasons we'll get into. We'll also take a look at what's coming up over the final third of the year for the Warriors a little bit between now until we decide to end the night. But good to be with you, my friend. And I know there's going to be a lot of complaints about the All-Star game and the All-Star weekend. But from a Bay Area standpoint, Steph ended up winning the All-Star game, and Steph ended up winning the All-Star MVP. So there you go.
Cheers, my brother.
All good on that front, I think, as far as Warrior fans are concerned.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very mixed feelings All-Star weekend because from my perspective alone, to be able to go out and cover an All-Star weekend in the area that I grew up going to games and appreciating the local community and seeing how that was impacted, and the fact that there was some inclusion in Oakland is something that I was really glad that they did because I thought that crowd showed out nicely. Now, logistically, that might not have been the best thing. I mean, our entire break yesterday between Just Dubs and All-Star practice and then the Saturday night festivities was just spent on the Bay Bridge trying to fight through traffic and everything. But I can't really complain. Look, that format wasn't it. But at the same time, we're here. We're at Harmonic. It's popping. And for those not able to be out at Harmonic, that's why we're on YouTube and that's why we're on KNBR as well, so we can hang out together. This might not happen for another 25 years. Who knows what the future of the NBA All-Star Week or weekend is going to be moving forward. So I'm just happy to be here and soak it in. But, yeah, I'm not trying to act like this weekend was something that it wasn't.
No, it was, I think, all in all, from a basketball standpoint, especially tonight, disappointing, all in all. When you separate it from, Stephen Curry's team winning and Steph Curry taking home the All-Star MVP trophy. But again, the All-Star game it's a spectacle. It's an opportunity for the league to showcase a city, an NBA community, and the star players themselves, from the young players, whether it's even the G League players. There was the G League All-Star game in San Francisco. There was the G League dunk contest yesterday. The Rising Stars, allowing for the G Leaguers to participate in the Rising Stars, the Rising Stars to participate as one of the teams in the 4-team tournament for the All-Star game tonight. There's a lot of different discussion points and opinions about how it all played out, but the reality is this thing is a show more than it is an actual game. And it's definitely not what it used to be even 10 to 15 years ago, let alone some of the ones that I remember when I was a kid, which are closer to 30 and 35 years ago, before Greg Silver's time. But they're just, at some point, the league they've become too much show and not enough basketball. And the show is great in terms of promoting your brand and promoting your players and promoting all of that stuff. But at some point, the reason everybody loves and watches a weekend like this is because they love basketball. And I think it just wasn't enough about the basketball, if that makes sense, or about the quality basketball. And look, not all a whiff. I thought the slam dunk contest, while, again, you have a non-NBA regular player winning the dunk contest for a third consecutive year in Mac McClung, I did think it was an entertaining dunk contest, one of the more entertaining ones of the last decade. But that in and of itself is saying something, because that dunk contest we both witnessed last night, Greg, almost is put on a pedestal to potentially be something that it wasn't. No offense to Mac McClung, who had one of the great dunks maybe ever. No offense to Stephon Castle, who I thought put on a legitimate show. But the league's got some figuring out to do, as much as we all enjoyed being at the events in the Bay here over the last 3 days.
Yeah, let's be honest about the fact that if this was happening in Denver this weekend, we would have taken a little bit of time off.
I'd be in Tahoe.
Exactly.
I mean, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be. And I love the opportunity to hang out with Jimmy and hang out with Jesse and Mike and Grace is here tonight and everybody at Harmonic and hang out with you. But, yeah, there's a reason. And I don't want to skew it totally negative because, again, I do think, Greg, it's fun to be at. But when you actually are watching it, it's like, damn, like they got a lot of work to do.
Oh, they do have a lot of work to do for sure. And we're very fortunate to be able to do what we do. I mean, it's one of the perks of our industry and the fact that you have a once-in-a-25-year type of thing happening in the Bay Area to go out to this. But in terms of the actual events, I can't say I was fully locked in mentally all the time. And today, with the actual basketball in the tournament, it was really weird because in the final alone, I get having these long pauses and these activities and these performances in between the semifinal games and in between the championship game. But the score was 11-1.
Too many breaks.
And then we had a seemingly 45-minute timeout that was the Kevin Hart show and a whole bunch of other spectacles. And just to your point again, JD, I mean, people are here at Harmonic Brewing. They're here at Thrive City. They're here in San Francisco. And they're here in Oakland for some of it, largely because of the basketball. And we got wildly away from the basketball, particularly today. Last night, as far as the dunk contest goes, I did think that was a very quality finals. I mean, the only complaint I have about it, and this is nothing against Mac McClung and Stephon Castle, but only people who are really locked in on the NBA are going to know who Mac McClung and a nice rising rookie in Stephon Castle are. Even someone like Ja Morant or Zach LaVine, per se, that's a name who's done well in the dunk contest before, and he stopped doing it. So those two were fine, but, you know, Buzelis and Andre Jackson, I appreciate their efforts in trying dunks, and the fact that they weren't converting on them just kind of added to the whole disappointment of what it's really become over the last 10 years. I mean, Mac McClung's dunks itself were wildly entertaining. I don't want to take away from what he did, but a lot of this weekend, it's trying to figure out ways to spin things and in different ways, positive or negative. And today, I don't really have much positive spinning to do for the actual product that was out there. I can appreciate that the event was here in San Francisco. I can appreciate being with you and seeing people at Harmonic Brewing. We already said what's up to Rich. We said hi to Evan, who got a nice little selfie right as we were getting the show going. But this is the community building that I'm really happy about and will look back on positively. I don't think I'm going to be telling my children one day, oh, you know, I saw Nikola Jokic go 0 for 2 at the free throw line in the All-Star game, and that's about all I remember.
No, you're going to say I was at the 2025 All-Star game and Stephen Curry was the MVP. Like that truly is probably what you're going to – and Mac McClung had an all-time incredible dunk over a Kia, right? I mean, those I think the two most memorable things, at least for people in the Bay, are likely those two things. Like when you boil it down, like nobody truly remembers the details as to whether it was great or bad and in what ways it was great or bad.
And Buddy Hield did the most Warriors, or he really did the most Buddy Hield thing possible, which was tie
I
Steph
don't think
Curry's
anybody's going to remember
record,
that.
and then going 0 for 6 to start his second round and not winning the championship game.
Yeah, I don't think. Wait, who won the 3-point shootout?
Tyler Hero.
That's right.
Who snuck in.
See, there you go. It's been 24 hours, and I already have forgotten.
I don't mean to expose you, by the way, but JD's got the box score of the championship game pulled up on his computer.
I do. Well, I have all 3 games. Well, I have the first 2 games.
Yeah, only you would be that dedicated to do it.
The reason I did, and I actually didn't get to. I do have the one from the final here, but the reason, and this is, I'm going to out myself here. The reason is so I could remember who was on whose team. Like, it wasn't necessarily that the numbers per se. But although did Jason Tatum get robbed of the MVP? I'm kidding. I'm joking. Don't.
It was revenge for the Olympics.
I'm totally joking. Hey, what's going on? Good to see Eddie. Good to see you, man. Always appreciate. Always good when Eddie stops by. Yeah,
love Eddie.
Always good. Always good when the owner stops by. And Jimmy's here tonight. Like I said, it's a full crew.
Well, and the last time I was here with you, Eddie was a lot more locked in on the national championship game. So I was trying to keep my distance and be like,
Eddie's having a good time tonight. Much more relaxed.
You go focus on your thing.
Much more relaxed. So 808 KNBR is the number, 415-808-5627. It is Dubs OT with JD. It's our special all-star edition here as the OGs of Shaquille O'Neal. Even that, it's like, can we just go west and east? Can we figure out a way to
USA versus world?
USA versus world? USA versus world would be great. I kind of felt the tournament was maybe a little bit of a test for could you do USA versus world? I don't know. I don't want to get into spending the next hour just kind of crapping on everything from the weekend and how bad it was. But it just when you're in the building, there's too many breaks first and foremost. That is the number one. It feels as if the league is trying to, and this is the final one, obviously, on TNT. It's been on TNT for the last, 22 years?
Yeah.
But it feels as if the league is trying to cram as much as they can into 3 hours with as little basketball as possible being a part of the 3 hours.
That's a good way of putting it. And here's the deal. And we were sitting...
where a normal game is like 2 hours and 15 minutes, let's say. Why not have it? There's no way we got. Did we get half of that? Did we get an hour and 15 minutes of actual basketball tonight?
No shot. And our guys, Michael and Austin, are probably going to come by here a little bit later when they're done doing their actual work, because we had some awesome KNBR digital on-site boots on the ground presence this weekend. But they were saying, Michael goes, look, if a team starts going on a run, you're almost rooting against it, because the target score of 40 makes it, this game's about to end.
Yes. Well, and I'll give you another just pet peeve little nugget for me. Like it was 11-1, and then they took the Kevin Hart. I guess it ended up being the pay homage to TNT, but at first it was like the pay homage to Kevin Hart. Can we have no more Kevin Hart, by the way? Can we just 86 Kevin Hart? Like, who does Kevin Hart have incriminating photos of to where the NBA just keeps demanding that he come back and be a part of this? Like, nobody is asking for Kevin Hart to be a part of this other than Kevin Hart. Like, and it feels like nobody wants Kevin Hart to be a part of it except Kevin Hart, and yet Kevin Hart wins that battle every year. Like, nobody wants Kevin Hart. Like, the NBA, here's the other part that the NBA is trying to do. The NBA is they are trying so hard. Like, the NBA is inherently cool for decades. The NBA is trying too hard to be cool, and it comes off as absolutely cringe. Like, I can't imagine. It's got to be more cringe being in the building, because if you're watching the game, maybe, or you're having a little party, or you got some friends over, you're having a few brews with the fellas and the ladies, and everybody's kind of hanging out and having a good time. It's easy to be like, oh man, this is not great. But all right, let's go, drink some more, or have another slice of pizza, or play a game, or when you're in the building and you feel the air just kind of let out and the awkward, nobody knows how to react, it's truly cringe.
Here's the other side of that, though, JD. If I, as somebody in the building, am not able to have my attention fully there and fully in the moment, being in that environment, how can I expect anybody watching at home in their living room on TV or having a party to be half as enthralled and paying attention to that. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you click it off. I mean, they're trying too hard. I mean, the game, I feel like, promote the hell out of the stars. I promote the hell out of the stars. That's what it's all about. That's what this weekend is. Promote the hell out of the best, from the OG players that are going to be retiring in the next 5 years to the young players who are on the up and come and everybody in between. But the game should speak for itself. I have no problem with music. Have music be a part of it. Music and culture and all of that, that's part of it. Music is not the problem. Have some good music in between. Have performances before. Have performances at halftime. That's all great. No issue with that. But let the game beyond that stand on its own. Let it be about the players and their greatness and just putting on a show for themselves and putting on a show for the rest of the NBA.
Yeah, and the problem here, and I hate to say it in a way that puts it so simple of like, hey, well, nice job, genius, but this is all about getting players, and when I say players, I mean your LeBron James, your Steph Currys, your Kevin Durant's, the faces of the league, and also that goes for the younger ones as well, your Anthony Edwards, your Victor Wembanyama's to be. They need to care, and they just haven't for the better part of a decade now, because let's look at the in-season tournament. When that first was announced, my thought was, this is another NBA trying too hard idea. This felt like a forced thing. What's going on?
Hello.
I am.
Yes, I'm JD. Yes, we appreciate it.
You're the best.
What's your name?
Jenny. Great to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Jenny.
You want to say hi on the show?
Nice to meet you. Come on over. Come on over. Come on over. Say hi to everyone on the camera. There you go. Say hi to everyone. We will pause. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
There's no such thing as an interruption. Why would we put the show out here if we were worried about people doing
Come on over. It's wonderful. That's okay. It's wonderful meeting you. Wonderful. Thank you so much for stopping by. Have a great night. You stop by, you say hi. Michael Connell's going to stop by and say hi. He's going to jump right in. Yeah, Mikey smokes. Mikey Digital or Mikey Streams. That's what it is. Mikey Streams.
What an all-star!
What an all-star weekend. Well, I mean, we have an actual stick mic if you want to well, hop over to the other side. Were you the one that left their bottle of Hennessy? No, I'm kidding. All right, Mike.
What an all-star weekend. I got to go cut some Kevin Durant sound. You would not believe what he said post-game. Check the Twitter, KNBR Twitter and Instagram.
There you go.
You would not believe it.
And, Michael, make sure you check in with Jimmy and Mike and get yourself a brew here while you work. We appreciate that here on Dubs OT with JD and Greg. So where were we?
So where were you?
Was
that we talk about the NBA Cup, and that was something that I thought was an idea that in principle felt like it was trying too hard. The real solution was going to be within shortening the season, getting rid of back-to-backs, not making load management such a priority for players. And it turned out that in 2 years of the NBA Cup, it actually has delivered in ways that I never would have expected.
It's overperformed.
And it's because the players treat it like a playoff game, even though it's not, and even though they all have enough money to where the winnings aren't going to alter their lives unless they're on a rookie contract. So it's really just about getting the players to care. And I think if they did that enough in the All-Star weekend, it wouldn't be so much about what the format is or what the activities are or the performances or the gimmicks. It would just be that the product of basketball, what everybody comes to see, would be better.
808 KNBR, if you want to weigh in on how you fix the All-Star game. We got another. Step on over this way. We got another. Careful. Yeah. That would have been bad.
Name?
What's going on?
Sergio? Yes, sir.
Sergio, hop in. Just say what's up to everybody. Hey, what's going on, Sergio? Sergio, thanks a lot for stopping by and saying hi. What'd you think of the game tonight?
I loved the game, man.
Okay, we had a good time.
Great, man.
Okay, you like the new format?
Of course.
Okay, and then Steph takes home the MVP, which
Hey, caught my eye, man. Especially when LeBron was out there and everything.
Yeah, no doubt. Sergio, thank you so much.
Hey, appreciate you,
man. We appreciate you for stopping by.
On the way out. There you go.
Absolutely, and great. Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Absolutely. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Yeah, I don't know how you fix it in an All-Star game.
Andis Brown says that's the rule of the show. If you come on and say hi, you got to be on camera.
Yeah, Andis, you're 100% correct.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
Well, there was one that we did have one. I did have one night that I think maybe they were with somebody they weren't supposed to be with, or they just didn't. It was just like, nah, I'm good. It was one of those. I don't know. I don't want to.
I'm not gonna ask.
I don't want to out anybody. I'm like, all right, fine. No, he kind of gave me the like, I don't want to. I don't need to be on the camera tonight. And so, all good.
To each their own.
Again, we're not trying to put anybody on blast. If you're, you got some things going on, some entanglements going on. I don't know. I don't know how you fix it.
We reached the entanglement section of the show as we have tried to figure out how to fix All-Star Weekend here. Yeah, I don't know exactly how you fix it. I mean, it comes down to getting the players to care. The question then becomes, what do you do to get the players to care? So Damian Lillard had a quote, and we did not go down there for the post-game media. We came right here to Harmonic to cater to our friends at YouTube and Twitch and to let Raph do his thing because we know Raph's the best in the business. But he said he wouldn't mind doing what the MLB did for a bit and having the winner get home court of the NBA Finals. Now, I actually didn't like that a whole lot in the MLB. I thought that was too much of something on the line that was not going to impact a large chunk of the players participating in the game. But it was interesting to me that
it did make it more competitive, though.
Yeah, and the fact that Damian Lillard says he's open to it does pique my interest as an observer.
Yeah, I think I think that's something that you could look at. Like I'm not, financial incentive is maybe something that you could look at. Bonus money or something like that if you're on the All-Star team and that team wins. But then you're probably going to have to get into the 7 figures and minimum to have it, really make a significant difference. But I think it's a very tricky scenario. I do think they should probably go back to it's one game, it's 48 minutes, it's whether it's USA versus the world or East versus West. I think to me, it's just the players need to care more. The players need to care more. I do put this on the players. Like and I think the league has to be a little bit harder on the players, to be honest. I think part of the problem here is that Adam Silver is too interested in being the players' friends as opposed to being their commissioner and being their leader and being somebody. I mean, I go back to David Stern, who had his flaws and had his faults. But David Stern, if this was going on, it wouldn't be going on. Like, David Stern would be figuring out ways to make it hurt these guys if they weren't going to bring a certain level of intensity to where the game itself, the game itself doesn't feel like it's the number one most important thing. It feels like all the other stuff is the number one. It feels like the concert's more important. It feels like Kevin Hart's more important. It feels like honoring TNT's more important. It feels too much to me like a freaking TV show. And forgive me, because I'm really not the most solution-oriented in this. Like, I don't think the gimmicks have not worked. They've tried gimmicks. They've tried different things. Maybe you go USA versus the world. I don't know. That feels like the last thing you can possibly do. To me, it's not about the gimmicks. To me, it's about giving a damn.
Yeah.
And I think it's on the players to give a damn. And if the players don't give a damn, it's on the commissioner of the league to make the freaking players give a damn.
So let me ask you a question as someone that has really gotten to live through more eras of basketball in real time, because I've gotten my nice share of education, but this is the first All-Star game I've been present for, boots on the ground covering, and you would be a better person to run this whole thing by. Why is it that you think the Michael Jordans of the world in their time cared about something like the All-Star game and putting on a performance in the show? Did it have to do with the fact that Michael Jordan himself was just a psycho-competitive individual? Was it the difference in commissioner? Was it the fact that the internet has permeated a lot of basketball culture, and the NBA is always talking about, oh, well, we do so well in the digital and social media space? And if you think about the dunk contest, well, in Vince Carter's day in 2000, when this was last in the Bay Area, that was like a primetime stage to go and have your talents on display. Now it feels like you can put anything out there at any time and get some kind of engagement, no matter who you are and what kind of platform you have, because social media and the internet and the way things spread just sort of takes on a life of its own.
Here's what has to happen, and here's why. It was Michael Jordan's maniacal competitiveness, number one. It was also Magic Johnson and Larry Bird's maniacal competitiveness, because they were a part of that era. The other thing they were trying to do was build the league. At that point, they were building the league. In the 80s, they were trying to build the league. In the 90s, they were trying to grow the league into what it's become today. To me, they're a little fat and happy now. Like, they are making billions, and they know in the grand scheme of things that a mildly unwatchable or a completely unwatchable All-Star game is not at the end of the day going to hurt the bottom line, to be perfectly honest, as much as we all will complain about it tonight. And I think it's going to be a big part of the discussion in the next couple of days here, what they can do again to try and figure it out, even though they've already, I think, tried to do a lot of different things for it. But no, it was David Stern being the ruthless taskmaster that he was, trying to grow a league into what it's become. And you have Michael Jordan, the ultimate psycho competitor in professional sports history, the GOAT of competitiveness in just the history of life in Michael Jordan. But you also had the Larry Birds and the Magic Johnsons, who all had that competitiveness. And Charles Barkley had that competitiveness. And Karl Malone and John Stockton had that competitiveness. Those players of that era, and it transcended into the next era, the Shaqs and the Kobes and eventually LeBron, although I think LeBron's been more a part of the problem than the solution over the course of the last decade.
Oh, you mean how he just announced he wasn't playing like an hour before the game?
Well, and he also didn't even show up until 2 hours before the game. I mean, he was not here at all. This is not the first weekend that he's done that. And it also, he comes out, no media availability until this afternoon. Yeah, pause in 10 seconds here to take a quick selfie. Appreciate it.
That's our honorary station identification here at Harmonic Brewing.
Yeah, here at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. You stop by,
Raph,
say hi. We're all good with it. And yeah, big shout out to Raph back in our San Francisco studios here. But it was those. The tone was set by them because those guys were trying to grow the league into what it has become. And I think there's an obligation to carry the torch from the great ones to the next level of great ones. And I think from the Jordan, Magic, Bird era to the Shaq, Kobe era, I think it was carried for, but it started to wilt then. I'm not going to lie. It started to go down in the last 15 to 20 years, but it's absolutely careened in the last 5 to 10.
But we've also seen the freakish competitiveness of a Steph Curry, a Kevin Durant, a LeBron James, and others who define this era when they do decide to care. And it still is comparable to how it was with Kobe, Shaq, Charles Barkley, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, and many, many others from the past. So it's weird how they were not flipping the switch off in the 90s and early 2000s, and now it's a switch that they can flip on when they decide to flip it on, but they are so easily willing to flip it off.
Let's get into the YouTube chat a little bit. Appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch here tonight on this Sunday from Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. Cheers to everybody. I'm just going to start right at the top here. Robert Brown, God, that was pitiful. Yeah, I think it. I'm not sure if it's better or worse being in the building. At times, I feel like it's better because you do feel some of the energy when there are positive plays, and Steph was one of the guys that was really at some point, our buddy Austin Scott from the digital department, he says, hey, this thing's a snooze, but not even forget about the format or all the stops or everything else. It's a snooze because guys are just going up and down and taking jumpers and try to drive, try to turn it into a dunk contest, try to take some crazy shot. I thought at some point Steph Curry tried to, all right, I'm going to start taking half-court shots. I'm going to start taking floater threes. Like, I thought Steph, more of that kind of stuff involved in the game, I think would be beneficial. Robert adding arguably the worst All-Star game of all time. Hey, what's going on? Good to see you. Arguably, again, I may be not enough removed from it to put it in that context. However, as I've said to you a lot, Greg, I've covered 3 All-Star games in my life and my career. I covered 2017. I covered 2018 in New Orleans and LA, respectively. I had not watched any of the All-Star festivities since 2018 when I last covered it in Los Angeles. So that tells you where I'm at on it.
Shame on you.
I've kind of ditched it. So it's harder for me to put it in the historical context of recent times. But if we've got people saying it was horrible, then or among the worst, I do think those who do have maybe a greater perspective over the recent times in the next couple of days are going to be putting it in the category of worst all time.
Yeah, and I didn't watch the last 2 All-Star games all that closely either, but I do think that the format did it no favors this year, and I don't have a problem with that take, although I don't have a passionate argument one way or another for if it was the worst, if it was just up there with the worst, if the whole product has suffered. And they've done things to make it better at times. I mean, Steph versus Sabrina last year was a massive hit. That was the highlight. There was no such kind of WNBA, NBA crossover. I know everyone was saying Steph and Clay versus Sabrina and Caitlin Clark this time around, possibly. That didn't end up happening. And then for the three-point contest, I mean, you got a bunch of guys that are solid players. Tyler Hero's had a nice season and everything, but was it needle moving in any way? No.
Not at all.
And the dunk contest was better than the last 3 or 4, but that's not saying a whole lot with where the bar was set on the dunk contest.
I think the dunk contest was probably the best one since I did watch the Levine Aaron Gordon one.
That was awesome.
That was 2016. That was the last one that I watched that wasn't one that I covered. And I thought this one was the best of the ones that I can remember. And I don't remember any blowing up on social media in the time that I sort of had ignored the event at this point. But I thought Castle was really good. I thought Mac McClung, I'd always kind of considered Mac McClung a little bit of a joke, to be perfectly honest. But I thought he owned it last night. He was spectacular. He put on a really good show and impressed the hell out of me. But it's Mac McClung. Like, if you don't want Mac McClung being, no disrespect to him, but you want an NBA All-Star caliber player doing what Mac McClung did. You want Shai Gilgeous-Alexander doing it, or you want Ja Morant doing it. Ja saying, hey, maybe I'll come out of retirement, maybe I'll come out and actually have a chance to compete next year, that McClung was maybe drawing him out. That would be great. If Ja Morant was, and again, no offense to Mac McClung, if Ja Morant put on the display that Mac McClung put on, we would be talking about it as one of the greatest dunk contests or dunk wins maybe ever.
100%. And I don't think we need to walk on eggshells on this no offense to Mac McClung thing. I mean, he's an incredible athlete, but here's the reality. He has played in 3 NBA games. That is the same number as dunk contest championships he has won. He has had 2 dunks in an NBA game, in an NBA jersey. That is fewer than the amount of dunk contests he's won. So I love the talent display, but after 3 years in a row, it's like, okay, Ja Morant is capable of something. Maybe if Jonathan Kuminga gets healthy, that was kind of my hope for the home crowd, but he had an ankle injury, so understandable excuse. Maybe Zach LaVine comes back. Maybe Giannis Antetokounmpo comes back, although now he's saying that his kids hacked his Twitter and that it was all for attention, which is, again, a big part of the problem.
It is. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. It's John Dickinson and Greg Silver here. Dubs OT, our special post All-Star edition. A lot of people stopping by and saying hi. Let's go ahead and take a quick time out. We'll come back. We'll get into more of the discussion. There was a hell of a lot going on in the building, and not a lot of it was positive. There was a lot going on before the game. Did you catch what Draymond Green had to say? It was the Draymond Green show, basically, before the game. I mean, he was just going in on everything.
I'm shocked that he had some opinions to share.
We will get into some of what Draymond had to say coming back here as well, as it is Dubs OT with JD and Greg Silver here on the Sports Leader.
I put on the show, and I thank them for helping me do that in Golden State, because a lot of histories happen out here, but the competition and the camaraderie and the legacies that we all create is what it's all about. So I'm happy to be a part of that celebration.
This is KNBR, and this is Dubs OT with John Dickinson, streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
All right, welcome back. That's Stephen Curry getting the All-Star Game MVP trophy. There you go. Doing the math on that. We were just talking during the break about the actual game action, right? And
we got a number.
It's John Dickinson, Greg Silver, 30 minutes and 27 seconds of game action tonight among the 3 games.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it went from 11-1 to the end of the championship game won by the Steph Curry-led OGs in a quicker amount of time than it took the long Kevin Hart pay homage to TNT break to occur. That was longer than the actual conclusion of the game for the OGs to score the remaining 29 points. So, yeah, that ain't it. Like, again, I feel like I want to know what the true root of trying to fix the issue is in terms of the NBA. Is it because I do feel like they're trying to trick us, Greg. I really do. I feel like they're trying to cram more stuff that isn't basketball into this 3-hour window, play less basketball, which in turn keeps the stars happier because they don't have to exude as much energy on it, while also try and make it sneaky more competitive. So I feel like there's like a little shell game going on here, and it's not landing on any level.
But it wasn't more competitive. And think about the fact that we know they wanted Chuck and Shaq to be the finals, right? The international team versus the OGs. That was the finals.
Well, yeah, you wanted Steph and KD and LeBron if he decided to show up.
So think about a first-time All-Star like Jalen Williams of the Oklahoma City Thunder. He was out there. I don't know what his official minutes were, but you got your box scores. He's probably out there for, 6 minutes in his first-ever All-Star appearance? That's someone that probably wants to play.
Now you got me looking up Jalen Williams.
Yeah, well, while he's looking up at the Jalen Williams, I guess the point is I don't know if it made it more competitive, and I think that the players who would have wanted to play a longer run and would have had more motivation and more energy and possibly more effort to go
7
with that,
minutes.
Didn't get that. So 7 minutes in his first ever All-Star game. And maybe that's how it would have worked out in a 48-minute game, and he wouldn't have gotten that many shots anyway, being one of the lower-end All-Stars. But he didn't have a choice in this one.
No, he definitely didn't have a choice in this one. And Draymond Green addressed this, and we'll hear what Draymond had to say as it related to just the Saturday portion of it. Let's go ahead and hear that actually right now, and then we'll add on the quote of what he had to say about tonight. So here's Draymond Green talking about the All-Star Saturday and what needs to be done to try to fix it.
That's what it's always been, right? You look at MJ, you look at Kobe, you look at Vince, like all the top guys. It was kind of a rite of passage to do the dunk contest. And I think, when Bron didn't do it, then guys stopped doing it almost as if it was beneath them. And when you look at Bron jumps very high, but I'm not sure he has the dunk package to succeed in a dunk contest. But yeah, everyone started looking at him like, oh, Bron not doing it. But then for him, you also don't want to embarrass yourself. Well, Harrison Barnes had one of the worst dunk contests in the history. You don't want to look like that either. And so, and yet Harrison Barnes has a 40-inch vertical. Yeah. Obviously, Harrison isn't LeBron James, but you get my point. And so I think that's where it tipped, where Bron didn't do it, and then you start to see the stars not do it. Yeah. But now, where All-Star Weekend has gone, overall, the game, the dunk contest, you name it, where it's gone now. I mean, last year we did Steph versus Sabrina to even pump more energy into that. So where it's gone now, if stars don't start doing it, All-Star Weekend is about to be lost.
Well, I agree with the last part wholeheartedly. I think they do have to get the stars back in the fold. Otherwise, we are going to start to have some uncomfortable conversations about maybe not having anything take place. And look, I don't think it's going to get to that level. I mean, I think there will still be an all-star game. I think you still want to move it around the country if you're the NBA and have it be this party. It's just a party that everybody's going to show up to and nobody's going to really enjoy in terms of the actual events. Like, there's still parties going on in the Bay Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. Like, it's still an event to come to. It's still an NBA convention with executives and PR and writers and reporters and TV personalities and all of that. It's still an event, but it's an event without purpose. It's an event without any actual payoff. It's in many ways like the Super Bowl week, only with a game surrounding it that's completely meaningless. And so I think that's the part that's unfortunate. To the Jalen Williams point, and to the lack of game action, a little under 31 minutes of total game action in the 3 All-Star games tonight, Draymond on that, you work all year to be an All-Star, and you get to play up to 40, and you're done. It's unfair. So to those young guys, obviously, that are getting their first opportunity, and some of them will not be All-Stars next year, right? A lot of them will. Some of them won't be. Some of them may not. There may be a couple that won't be again.
There's never a guarantee. Never.
And so it does kind of ruin the experience from that standpoint. So I'm more of the opinion, and we've talked about it a lot already, to go back to a traditional game at the foundation and then figure out a way to try to manipulate it from there. But I don't even really think it comes down to manipulation, Greg. I just think it comes down to like a lot of things in life and like a lot of things in sports, it comes down to your GAF level, your give-a level. And that's something that I think the league has to sit down with the players and almost force. Sorry, it's a $1 billion industry. It's a much more player-run league than maybe any league in professional sports. Maybe it needs to be a little bit of a less player-run league in this particular instance.
Draymond Green had a lot of opinions today. We will get to a couple other of those opinions. Here's what I had an issue with, though, when it came to talking about not liking the fact that the rising stars got a chance to play and how it's not fair to the people that are all-stars because those young guys haven't earned their right to be participating in the weekend. Well, dude, you're part of the problem as a player in this league, as one of these strong personalities and faces of the league in his own right. Like, he's not a face in the league in that he was ever the best player on his team, but he was an important player on a team that won 4 championships in this era. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's got a say in how the league goes, and he's got all these strong opinions. Okay, you want the rising stars to not be part of this? You don't like this new format? Well, then treat the old one like it mattered. That's not entirely on Draymond Green, but for someone as outspoken as he is, that's on the players. If you're just going to dump on the new format, then you can't really have your cake and eat it too.
No question. I completely agree with that. 808 KNBR if you want to jump in on the phone lines. We've got a lot of people on the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line who are weighing in here tonight, as always. 408, JD, I'm sorry. I don't know how the NBA can continue on with this garbage even a few more years. It's a slap in the face to the legends like Kobe and MJ. I don't think I could have said it any better than myself, or any better myself than the 408 did there, Greg.
Yeah, I think that was well said as well by 408. Do you want to hear a couple of the Draymond opinions? Because I do have some thoughts on those as well.
Yeah, let's get into it. I think it's a nice way to transition. I mean, Draymond just holding court. He figured out a way to not be an all-star participant, at least in terms of the game. He was in the skills competition with Moses Moody. But I think he's also someone that he knows that this weekend, via his TV work with Turner, and we'll see where Draymond ends up moving forward in terms of his television work. He's going to be, I think, the next generational rising star in terms of analyst, assuming he doesn't become the head coach of the Golden State Warriors. So, let's get into that first and foremost. Draymond here tonight talking about his future potentially as a head coach. Oh, my.
Oh, man.
There's no way that I could coach ever in the history of everything. It'd be like Draymond coaching. Like, there's
Wow, you can't coach like that. Me.
I've already been offered to go to State Warriors.
I didn't say that you couldn't be.
Suck?
I didn't think you would suck. I just don't think that you would enjoy it. You would not be able to coach. Your patience, our patience is. Thank you. Thank you very much.
How would you know what you're doing with that?
Speaking true.
Sorry.
Draymond, you think you'd be a good coach?
I think I could be a good coach. Okay. But I don't want to be.
All right, the back and forth there with Candace Parker as well, and I think he was going back to what Joe Lacob had said as far as Lacob's belief that Draymond could be a good coach, and just kind of throwing it back as I don't think it was as literal as maybe it was taken on social media first and foremost, but. Where are you at on Draymond being a lot of superstars don't make good coaches, but I don't think Draymond is a traditional superstar in that vein. Like, he is much more second-round pick that had to make himself into something. He's not a true all-time superstar in terms of scoring. Like, he had to be and look, I think Draymond Green understands the intricacies of basketball better than any player I have ever covered in my 20-plus years of covering the league. I think he is as intelligent a basketball mind in terms of understanding what's going on in real time in a game and being able to explain it as anybody. I actually love that Draymond as an more than the Draymond that's just kind of flying off and having random opinions, although I think some of those are even spot on. What were your takeaways as far as all that went?
Reaction number one was you can't have a semi-private conversation with Draymond Green without it ending up on social media, his podcast, or the TNT airwaves. That was thought number one. I'm like, damn, if that's what Joe Lacob and he really had a conversation of that level of detail, poor Joe Lacob, man, it's getting thrown out there. I think Draymond Green is a phenomenal basketball mind. I think whatever he wants to do in the world of basketball after his playing days are over, I think he'll be good at, whether that's working in the front office somewhere, whether that is being a head coach on the NBA level, whether is that being a head coach on the college level or something else. I don't think specifically succeeding Steve Kerr as the head coach of the Golden State Warriors would be a great position for Draymond Green, because that is going to inevitably be a rebuild team. And that doesn't mean they're going to be a terrible team. I'm not saying that if they still got Kuminga, Podziemski, Trace Jackson Davis, Moses Moody, and some of these other young guys. I'm not saying they're going to be terrible, but when you get rid of the center of your franchise, who has been that for 15 years, you are automatically going to start over and scrap things up in a major way. So Draymond succeeding Steve Kerr and leading the new age rebuild is something that I don't see as a good position for him or his would-be players in that regard. Now, do I think he could be a good coach at some point on any level? Yeah, I do. But I don't think the literal translation of this quote, him being the next head coach of the Golden State Warriors, I don't see that as going well.
I don't think he's the next head coach. I think Draymond goes into TV first, and then if he ultimately decides to be in the front office or be a head coach, I think it comes after a little bit of time in TV. I think he goes that route, and maybe he just loves it so much, and in some ways he's the next Charles Barkley, and that generation, and he just rides off into the sunset and does that for another 25 years. Like, I could definitely see Draymond Green doing that. I also think, though, if he does come back and coach, it would be after an initial time being on television. And then whenever that kind of flames out, then it's back to TV for the remainder. Like, I don't know that he's necessarily going to be that guy until the end of time. I don't think there would be a crossover, though, where he would be coaching players that he actually played with as a teammate.
Yeah, and I don't think it would go well if that was the case. By the way, Kevin Durant was asked about this in All-Star Media Availability, and he said he thinks Draymond Green would be an incredible head coach, and then added better head coach than he would be a TV analyst.
There you go.
But also said, and he's pretty good at that. So it wasn't an entire shade-throwing operation by Kevin Durant, but still funny when you consider the context and the relationship of those two.
I thought a nice ovation, by the way, for Kevin Durant tonight as an all-star. It wasn't, I mean, look, he's had return games and all of that. I don't think anybody in the Bay was going to – it's funny. I know in a lot of cities how everything went down at the trade deadline with Durant refusing to come to the Bay, even though a trade had basically been agreed to for him to come back to the Bay. I think in a lot of cities, Greg, that would have been construed as something that would have really pissed off a fan base to the point where maybe he comes into their city for an all-star weekend and he winds up really feeling the brunt of it and taking some boos. But I never really thought Warrior fans, considering everything he brought to the table on the positive side, granted things got a little bit weird toward the end, and then his unwillingness to come back is certainly, I can believe, something that will make the Warrior fan base feel some kind of way. They didn't hold it against him tonight, which I think was a good thing. It wasn't a lusty first return back ovation, but it wasn't a nasty, oh, you didn't want to come back, we hate you ovation either.
No, I thought he got a pretty positive reception, especially in Oakland, where the team actually was when Kevin Durant was a member of the Golden State Warriors. He never was a Chase Center Golden State Warrior, and then he had his injury when he left after the 2019 season, which we all know about. But I thought the reception was largely positive. I was happy to see that personally because I think Kevin Durant does deserve a good chunk of appreciation. The fact that he sacrificed a year of his career to try to come back from a 3-1 deficit and win an NBA Finals when he was likely going to go elsewhere in free agency, I think is really commendable. And I've always held that perspective. He didn't know he was going to rupture the Achilles, but there was a risk going into that with the calf and those muscles being connected, and it didn't seem good, that injury he suffered in the 2019 playoffs. So I'm glad he got the appreciation he deserves. And I got to say, the Papa and Silver listeners in particular, not big Kevin Durant fans, love to complain about KD and this whole jersey retirement, should they not conversation. So I'm glad that the larger Bay Area feels a little bit warmer toward a two-time champion and two-time Finals MVP.
Let's hear another piece of Draymond Green sound, and this one a little more bold. How can it not be? But it's always Draymond Green, bold for better or worse. Draymond Green guaranteeing with the acquisition of Jimmy Butler another Golden State Warriors title in the Bay.
I think, we were kind of headed in the wrong direction, thinking we figured it out and never figuring it out this year, throughout the course of this year. And since he's been here, we've walked into every game thinking and believing that we're going to win that game. And that goes a long way in this league. When you walk in the game like, we're probably going to lose this game, it's not good. And so he's brought back that belief, and I think we're going to win the championship.
Say that one more time so that everybody hears.
Say that with your chest.
I didn't hear you. My earpiece.
Because they added Jimmy Butler III. So what did you say?
81?
I'm sorry. I said I think we're going to win a championship, and I lied. We are going to win the championship.
Wow. All right, so is Draymond just playing to the crowd there, or do you think – I think he believes – the thing that I almost jumped in with and stepped on the cut, this year, he goes, we're going to win the championship. I wanted it this year? Like this year, or just at some point between now and like the next 2 years? This year is how much of that percentage in your mind that was playing to the crowd, Draymond, versus actual believing that they can do it this year? I don't think they have enough to do it this year.
I mean, if that percentage is over 50 of true belief compared to playing into the crowd, Draymond Green just might be the next Charles Barkley with these type of guarantees that he throws out there. And Charles Barkley loves his guaranteed. Yeah, I don't think it's likely that it happens this year. And I wouldn't say they're the favorites by any means to do it as long as Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy Butler are around. But guess what? That's why you play the game. They weren't supposed to be that team in 2022 either. But I do think that Jimmy Butler has immediately come in and made them a more competitive team. I see them as a hopeful playoff team that could pull off a first-round upset because their path to the playoffs is likely going to be the play-in. Maybe it's the 6 if a lot of things go right here in this final stretch. They're going to be looking to pull a first-round upset for sure. Next year, it's a different story, but it's kind of hard to think that all these elements are going to be stacked in the Warriors' favor when you consider that they're still very dependent on Steph Curry and Draymond Green for that offense and defensive side of the ball. Jimmy Butler is absolutely support, but if you don't have a fortunate enough stretch of health over 6-7 months for Curry and Green, then you could toss any notion of championship right out the window.
No Cap 757 in the chat. They're not winning a title, especially with the role players they have, and they have no shooting. Have to trade those guys away in the offseason to have a chance. I mean, that's what I've maintained for the last week here. I think they can get in and win a round. I will say that. I think they can get in and win a round. I think it's going to be tough for them to actually get to 6th between now and the end of the regular season. I think they're going to have to earn their way in via the play-in tournament. But I also think even if they were to win a round, it would be a long shot. You're going out in the second round most likely. And then you take a look at the roster that you have and the things that worked and the things that didn't work. And then you look to make the proper additions in the offseason. And that may mean some subtractions to get those additions. But I just think it's too tall a task. Andis Brown adding, I think Draymond is writing checks that Steph and Jimmy Butler will have to cash. What do you think of that?
There was actually a quote, and I got to go back and find it in the feed. But Draymond Green, when he was on the TV panel interviewing Steph Curry after the All-Star game when he got his Finals MVP trophy, and he said, "I guaranteed a championship, so good luck to you and Jimmy." Steph said, "Leave it to you. We needed a little bit more pressure."
There you go. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty spot on in terms of the – but I think the Warriors also embrace that pressure. I think they enjoy that pressure. I think Draymond saying it, I think he also kind of knows that it's unlikely that it actually happens this year. But it goes to what we've been talking about here for the last week, which is the simple fact that it feels like for the first time in a while, really for the first time since the 12-3 start, like there is something of consequence that they're playing for. Like the final 27 games, no matter how they end up shaken out for the Warriors, feel meaningful. And really this entire season, after they fell apart from the 12-3 start, was completely starting to feel unmeaningful.
Yeah, sorry, I was just looking through more quotes as we were going here. Steph Curry, by the way, got 12 of the 14 votes for All-Star Game MVP, 1 for Jason Tatum and 1 for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from Fan Vote 3, for any of those curious. Yeah, there were 3 fan votes here, along with a bunch of Associated Press.
I'm surprised that Tatum didn't get a few more, but, I mean, it doesn't matter. It's Steph's building, it's Steph's city, it's Steph's area. Like, you might as well just give it to Steph. I think there would have been more out. I mean, it's an all-star game, so who cares in terms of, like, you don't need to make a point to vote Jason Tatum when Steph Curry. Steph did enough, right?
Yeah, but it's 2025, and there's a need to argue about any and everything.
Thank you. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. I had a special delivery from Grace, so
and that's important.
It was an important special delivery. All right, let's take another timeout. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. We'll spend our final segment here in the YouTube chat. We'll get some more sound from postgame as Stephen Curry wins the All-Star Game MVP, and we'll also get into some of the expectations for the final third of the season here for the Warriors, with things beginning after a little 4-day break back in Sacramento on Friday. And, man, the first home game at Chase a week from today is going to be incredible, with Jimmy Butler's debut in front of the Bay Area fans and the Andre Iguodala jersey retirement. And, oh, by the way, Klay Thompson's back for a third time this season. And it's an ABC Sunday afternoon showcase game. Woo! So, I mean, if you were a believer in the script writing, that's a whole lot of script that came together to put a lot of focus on that game for the Warriors and the Mavs on Sunday. So we'll get into that coming up.
Well, look, and if that game starts 11-1, you can expect a half-hour-long timeout where we honor.
We'll just do the Iguodala ceremony then.
Exactly. You beat me to the punch.
He's Greg Silver. I'm John Dickinson. Dubs OT special post All-Star edition continuing here on the Sports Leader.
Harden pass to Curry, left wing. One bounce to his left, gets off a three and hits it. And Shaq's OGs are a point away.
Steph, that shot was barely out of his hand. He turned, he was running down the other way because he knew where it was going to end up.
He's going to get the Kobe Bryant Award as MVP. Steph Curry making a late run here.
Dub Nation, this is the real and inside story on Warriors basketball. Dubs OT with John Dickinson continues. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
All right, Stephen Curry, All-Star MVP. He did make a late run at the Kobe Bryant Trophy for All-Star Game MVP, and Steph ends up taking it home. 12 points in the final, 41-25. The Shaq OGs led by Steph Curry and Jason Tatum and others, Kyrie Irving and Damian Lillard, Kevin Durant as well. They prevail. They win the tournament-style All-Star Game format here, which featured a little under 31 minutes of actual gameplay. It's John Dickinson and Greg Silver back here from Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. Dubs OT with JD. Appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch tonight. We spent a good chunk of the last hour talking about the game and some of what Draymond Green had to say in terms of potentially coaching the Warriors moving forward, but the ability for them to win a championship. The reality is the All-Star break for the Dubs begins tonight because hosting this event, obviously you don't get a lot of R&R, at least the stars. Steve Kerr, I'm sure, is on a beach somewhere and has been probably since Friday.
I hope Jimmy Butler found a place to live.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler's probably on vacation wherever Jimmy Butler was planning on going vacation before he ultimately got traded to the Warriors. But the non-Steph, Draymond, Brandon Podziemski was out immediately when he was done on Friday. He had a vacation plan. Remember, he didn't originally make the Rising Stars game. He was a late add due to injury. And so he had plans and I think kicked him back a couple hours and was on a flight to somewhere immediately following the Rising Stars. So that the guys that really aren't Steph and Draymond are going to have a lengthier ability to recharge.
Hey,
but
Trace Jackson Davis played all the way through today.
He did. And that's more playing time than he's seen in the last 2 weeks. And maybe more playing time than he's going to see in the next 2 weeks. So TJD can afford it. But as we look at this thing, Greg, Warriors 10th right now in the Western Conference with the 27 games to go. They're tied with Sacramento. They will open with the two teams that are directly above them in the Western Conference standings in Sacramento on Friday, and then Dallas, the home game we were talking about before the break with the Clay return and the Jimmy Butler debut and all of that. Phoenix is a game and a half behind them and 2 under 500. They lost their final 3 games leading into the break. The Warriors, as things sit right now, 3.5 out of 6th. Clippers at 31-23. They're 2.5 out of 7th. I think there's an extremely realistic possibility for the Warriors to get to 8th. 7th might be a little bit more difficult because I think Minnesota, you would figure, should play at a bit higher level after the break. They're a team that I feel like gets their ass in gear a little bit and finishes strong. I think the Clippers.
Well, Anthony Edwards got some good rest today, too.
Yes, he did. So I don't know. I do feel like, and the game on Friday can flip this, but that game notwithstanding, I do feel like the Warriors with Jimmy Butler should pass the Kings. Should pass the Kings. Kings are kind of a different version of the same. Here's the Kings without De'Aaron Fox. They're not worse, but they're also not better.
Yeah. Well, the thing with the Kings, and I don't know how this will be without De'Aaron Fox and instead with Zach LaVine in his place, but they always seem to treat the Warriors matchups like it's a playoff game and like they lost to them in a 7-game series on their home floor a couple of years ago, whereas the Warriors will go out and play some flat basketball sometimes.
It's not, that part's not going to change on the Kings end, but I do think the Warriors, I think this game is in a good spot for the Warriors. They're going to be rested, maybe a little bit rusty first game after the break for the first half or so, but I think that works both ways. I think you aren't going to have the tiebreaker even if you win that game against Sacramento in all likelihood. But I just feel like it's two teams going in different directions where the Kings to me are probably going to be about a 500 team between now and the end of the year. I think the Warriors are a team that should be at least 4 to 6 games over 500. So I do believe Warriors kind of at a minimum 44. I think the Kings are going to stay around the 41 or 42 marker.
Well, I can't wait to watch Jimmy Butler in these next 2 games because the last time the Warriors played the Sacramento Kings, Steph Curry was getting double-teamed just about when he crossed half court. And guess what? The other Warriors, whether it was Moses Moody or Quentin Post or Dennis Schroeder or Buddy Hield, could not make them pay. And so the Kings were saying, okay, we're going to keep doing it. The Warriors had a great first half. They had a really rough second half. They ultimately lost a close game. Jimmy Butler, as we saw with Houston, if you want to double Steph and you got a 4-on-3 with Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green, okay, good luck. Life's a little bit more difficult on that end for you. So I'm really looking forward to watching Jimmy Butler against the Kings, and I am absolutely pumped to watch Butler against the Dallas Mavericks now that Klay has a 2-1 lead on his old team. He was very visibly happy after winning both of those games and pretty bummed out after losing the return game when Steph was screaming into the camera. Jimmy Butler said he felt sick by that game. He did not play a great game. It's going to be Jimmy Butler's first game at home, looking for revenge already in a Warriors jersey, one that says Jimmy Butler III. So those 2 games right off the bat. I hope Jimmy's getting some rest now because it's going to be hit the ground running and go time for number 10.
And I think the urgency level is the big part of this. Increased urgency level, and I think there will be even more of an increased urgency level for the Warriors as they get going here. And so the hyper focus on those first 2 because they are the 2 teams that are directly in front of the Warriors. A lot of people think Dallas is really going to continue to plummet. I mean, they won their last 2 games before the break to continue to stay ahead of the Warriors. I mean, Anthony Davis is going to be out close to a month potentially, and so we'll see. But I still do think that team has a lot of offensive firepower even without Anthony Davis to where they can pluck some regular season wins, but they are going to be highly Kyrie dependent. It sounds like Jonathan Kuminga is not quite going to be ready out of the break. I think there was
a reevaluation comes on Thursday.
Yeah, I think there was some optimism, and he's going to start to practice on Thursday as well. But I would think there was some optimism that he'd be ready to roll out of the break. I feel like it's going to be a couple of games in as opposed to straight up out of the break. No official word on that. We'll get that on Thursday when he's set to get reevaluated. But yeah, I think how things look when Kuminga comes back in terms of the rotation, because the Warriors have found a group right now that's worked. Steph, Podziemski now is the starting 2, Jimmy Butler, Moses Moody, the 3-4 spots, I think a little interchangeable, and then Draymond at the 5. I think that's the lineup the Warriors have to roll out moving forward in a big way. Maybe you see Looney against Sabonis, but for who? Is it, Looney? If it's Looney to go against Sabonis, are you taking Moody out at that point? And then you're going Looney, Draymond, Jimmy Butler, and you've just got no shooting at the 3, 4, and 5 positions there. So I think you still start Draymond, and then you let Looney take his rounds on Sabonis and kind of mix it up from that standpoint. But I think for the time being, the Warriors have found, Greg, their starting lineup, and then it all becomes the allocation of minutes around that, and what do you do to integrate Jonathan Kuminga as the one player who hasn't been healthy and available of late that's going to have to get back into the mix?
Yeah, and I think Jonathan Kuminga, the fact that he's been playing most of the season coming off the bench and being a spark plug, I think actually helps him a lot, because we said this on Saturday, which was actually yesterday, which actually feels like a long time ago up in the stands in the media section in Oakland. But Jonathan Kuminga is going to have to be asked to be a little bit of a different player than he was prior to when he last saw the court, because of Andrew Wiggins getting traded away and the point of attack defense missing a little bit, and Gary Payton II being someone that can do it, but not for 30-plus minutes on a given night. Kuminga's going to have to probably take the challenge of defending other teams' best guards and or wing players at times, and so that's going to have to be his next big step to take defensively. Offensively, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm welcoming him to shoot the 3 ball a little bit more if he can do it at an efficient enough rate, because Andrew Wiggins for Jimmy Butler, that gains you areas, but it loses you some 3-point shooting, and Wiggins was shooting it well this year. So if Kuminga can hit threes at an efficient enough rate, I'm good with him shooting them. That said, if he's not really shooting it all that well, I want him to continue to work inside and get to the line and be another version of the type of scoring that Jimmy Butler can give you.
It's less is more. That's what it boils down to. It's get yours off of cuts, get it off of transition, get yours off of the other actions that the Warriors run. Take the open corner 3 if it's presented to you. Defend it at a really high level. It's less is more. Nobody's asking Jonathan Kuminga to come back and be a star caliber player or even play at the level that he played at pre-injury. He doesn't have to for the Warriors to be successful. So do they not put that pressure on him? I don't think they will. Does he not put that pressure on himself? I think that's what's important. DVDV, as we are serenaded by Kendrick Lamar here at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City, with a salient point as we go to the final third here of the season. Kendrick released an album. Chef won All-Star MVP in 2022 and then won the title. Let's hope for the same scenario in 2025. Is that what Draymond Green's betting on?
I was going to say, I don't know if this right in front of me is beer or if it's the Draymond Kool-Aid, but I appreciate the note and at least attaching some facts and history to it. DVDV.
Yeah, so that's good. And a few people pointing out, as we've been talking about, Draymond guaranteed the championship. That outlandish, to say the least. But again, it tells you that they're more motivated now, which I think is, Draymond spouting off like that is something that's been absent since before the punch, which I think is, whether you agree with whether it's realistic or not, I think him having that level of confidence is a good thing that can potentially help propel the Warriors down the stretch of this season. Go ahead. Did you have a couple? Did you have something in the chat or no? Or
no, Robert asked if you're a Kendrick guy.
Yeah, Kendrick's fine. Yeah, I like Kendrick. I'm not. Definitely.
And DVDV confirming history major, so makes sense there.
There you go.
DVDV does homework,
That's absolutely perfect. What else are you looking at as far as the final stretch? Because I think it's going to be wildly entertaining. I think where some of the games at Chase and the Warriors are going to have to play better at home down the stretch here. That's been a 2-year-long problem. But I think there's going to be a new energy at Chase because of Jimmy Butler. I think this team's going to be an edgier team. I think it's going to be, they're going to take on the personality of Jimmy Butler and of Draymond Green, I think. And they're going to be a team that's scrappier and mixing it up more. And I think getting into it with the officials more, getting into it with the other team more. And I think all of that is going to create an energy that the fan base is going to vibe off of. I think they're going to kind of become even more of an unlike team again, which I think Warrior fans are going to relish in. Like, I just think there's going to be a little more ish to this team in the final third of the year. I don't know if they're a title contender. I don't think they are a title contender. I want to make sure I say that. I don't think they are. I don't think they're good enough to win a title.
What I'm most
Draymond proved me wrong, but I think they're going to be exponentially more entertaining between now and the end of the year.
Yeah, what I'm most looking at from a Warriors perspective is, do they win games that they're supposed to win? Can they avoid playing with their food? If we look at strength of schedule,
oh no,
they're 23rd.
Playing with their food. Are they that good? I hate that. I actually hate that.
You don't like playing with food?
I don't like playing with food when you're 28 and 27. Like, to me, when you're 28 and 27, when you're 28 and 27, you don't get to say, like, that's the thing that an arrogant, that's the thing that, like, the 2017 Warriors.
But I'm arrogant.
You can I know. Well, you're taking on the role of arrogant Warrior fan is what you're like. I don't play when you're 28 and 27, you don't get to say the Warriors are playing with their food.
Okay, let me rephrase it.
Like that. No, you don't get to do that.
What I'm going at,
when you're the Oklahoma City Thunder or the Boston Celtics,
you
right
can
now,
play with your food.
You can say, oh, they're playing with their food. Oh, they're down 8 to the Bulls. They're down 24 to the Bulls. You don't get to do that when you're under 500.
Well, they're now 1 over 500.
Or 1 over 500. Okay, you're 10th in the West.
Michael's looking at me like a proud father, like, yeah, you just proved your point. What I'm getting at here is that their strength of schedule is on the friendlier third for the rest of the season. It's 23rd out of 30 on the strength of schedule. So when I think about games that they have let slip away that contribute to the 27 losses or even some of the 28 wins and ones that they almost let slip away, don't be a team that's up 11 against the 12-win Utah Jazz and let it slip in the last 3 minutes. Don't be a team that when you're playing at home against a Charlotte Hornets comes out and sleepwalks through the first quarter, and by the time you get your S together, it's too late. So I'm not talking about the Warriors playing against teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder or even the Kings, who they're going to see again.
Yeah.
You got to go and find a way to steal some back, but you cannot afford to mess around in games that you've either built up enough of a lead where you got to be able to close it, or you're playing a caliber of an opponent to where there is no reason you should go and lose that game.
Yeah, I hear all of that. I just don't think Utah or Toronto or any of those games is them playing with their food. I just think it's them not being good enough. And I think, this team still has a lot to prove here in the final third of the year to show that they are, good enough to be on that level. And 3-1, it's been kind of a wild 3-1 when you look at it. I mean, it's 3-1 is 3-1, but you're down to, I'm in Chicago. They're down 24 to the Bulls, who stink. I mean, they stink, and they fight back and they win the game. And so we'll see how it shakes out. But their best two games were the Milwaukee game and the Houston game of the four. The two games where they've played maybe the lesser opponent, considering Dallas's circumstances, have been games where they haven't either played well or shown up. So I do think, even though we may semantically disagree there, I think we're talking about the same thing.
I'm mostly concerned with being able to shut the door when you have the opportunity to shut the door.
Yes.
And if you're at home, especially if you're at Chase Center in this building where it was not the loudest here this weekend, energy is going to have to be good in there, and the crowd's going to have to feed into the players. So, yeah, when you're playing against lesser competition, that's when you go take advantage of it.
You have to do it. Andis Brown in the chat on the Kings specifically, their defense has been pretty bad. They had the honeymoon boost with the new coach, played with a lot of effort, but their true stripes are being shown. I think actually they won a game in Boston like a month ago. I think they were 6-0, something like that in the Christie, whatever it was in the Christie era, 6-1, something like that. They've actually been they've gone back to being the no defense, all offense team that they really have been the last couple of years. So I think you can beat them 125 to 120 if you're patient and you run your offense. They've gone back to the formula of play no defense until the final game's close, final 5 minutes, try to get a couple of stops. We're so good on offense, we're going to win the game that way, and it's actually worked for them. I think they're 8-2 in clutch games there. So you still, they've kind of got the shamrock a little bit going in the late games. But you should be able to, I think, put them away if you can execute your offense.
Yeah, and that's something that we saw them do against the Milwaukee Bucks, who were down Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'm not trying to chalk that up to some big win. It's what we saw them do against Houston. And again, you had a 24-point lead. It quickly got down to 4, but you were able to find a little bit of calm and stability in the fourth quarter, in large part thanks to having a Jimmy Butler, to where it didn't feel like your offense was, well, Steph, try to take some ridiculous, tough, contested shots and just save us again. And they're still dependent on Steph Curry. But the fact that he's scoring 30 points on 20 shots instead of 37 shots since Jimmy Butler's arrival, I think speaks loud volumes.
He's just got a lot more energy. He's just a lot bouncier. He looks healthier. I think that's the big thing. I don't think he's going to be playing all back-to-backs in the second half. I do think they are going to have to manage that. I think it was the right call in this last week before the All-Star break to have him play the back-to-backs to try to go for wins. I think that was, but that's still something. There's going to be 2 or 3 games he's not going to play based on the fact that they're going to try to rest him. And I think that's going to be the right call. I still wonder if this team has enough shooting, Greg. I don't think they do, especially with Buddy Hield on a more limited role now with the 14 to 20 minutes per game. didn't go get a stretch big, which means Quentin Post is the stretch big, so they're going to be probably a little bit too much dependent on him, more than you'd want to be. So I think a lot of the problems that have been problems are still going to continue to be problems with Jimmy Butler. Lack of scoring, lack of shooting. I don't think it's going to be GAF level. I don't think it's going to be intensity level defensively. But I do think, and look, the onus is on Steve Kerr here. Like, Steve has to find the right combinations, and it can't be Kuminga's coming back and now everybody's wondering why Moses Moody's not playing, because when Moses and like, he's got to figure that out. We know Podziemski's going to be the starter at the 2. We know they don't view Moody as a 2 or sometimes maybe a 3. Kuminga's got to play the 4. There's an onus on Steve to figure it out. No, I think no excuses now here with Jimmy Butler in the fold.
No, I think the onus is absolutely on Steve Kerr, because in the same way that we've said, yeah, he hasn't had the perfect season coaching, but he doesn't have the greatest roster to work with. Well, now he does have a second star. Now he does have a big 3. And sure, they're all a little bit older, but this is a roster that should be a team that can get into a playoff series, whether it be through the play-in tournament or by having things go so well that you're able to go and get a top 6 spot. Steve Kerr's got a big responsibility here, and I do think that putting Brandon Podziemski in for Buddy Hield was the right move to this point. If anything, I wish he had done it a little bit sooner, because when you're 28 and 27, you can't be spending too much time tinkering, finding the right combinations. Starting this Thursday, it's go time.
It's go time. 27 games to go, a lot of road games. The first 3, you've got 1 in Sacramento, the 2 at home, and then it's long trip, long homestand, long trip, and then you're basically right there at the end of the season. Greg, great stuff, my man. We'll go ahead and call it a night on that note. Big thanks to everybody out here at Harmonic Brewing. We got Eddie the owner, holding court. We really appreciate him. Jimmy has been here as well all weekend long. They've been absolutely slammed the last couple of days. Tremendous to hear, and make sure you stop by. Make sure you check out Beer Week, by the way. Beer Week coming up next week. Bay Area Beer Week, right? Come out here. Harmonic in Thrive City. It's one of the best places in town to have a brew. And say hi to Jimmy, and say hi to Grace, and say hi to Mike and Jesse and everybody. Shay was here earlier. Long day for Shay. She opened today. I saw her sneaking out the side door about 20 minutes ago. So she's been here probably since 11 o'clock today. So just cooking. We love the folks at Harmonic Brewing, and we thank them for having us here for all of the games after the Warriors play, and for the All-Star game, a special bonus edition. You want to do a couple of chats here real quick to close things out?
Our guy Otis Bird III, because Bird is the word, says, shout out to everyone that held down during All-Star weekend in the Bay Area, all the bars, restaurants, hotels. Love the spirit, Otis, and a big thank you, of course, to Harmonic Brewing, because they are so gracious to us. We love promoting them. It's a great place to come hang out if you're ever out here at Thrive City. Even if you're not going to a Warrior game, spending some time here before or after the fact, it's an environment that's worth checking out all the time.
Yeah, it's awesome, and we love it. And again, we appreciate our relationship with the fine folks here at Harmonic in Thrive City. And we'll be here throughout the course of the second half. And you and I are going to be back here a week from today after the Warriors take on the Mavs. What a day that's going to be. The first home game for Jimmy Butler, and the first home game after the All-Star break for the Warriors. I will be live from Sacramento on Friday after the Warriors take on the Kings, and then we got Just Dubs in between on Saturday as well. So big thanks to Raph Corral in our San Francisco studios. Kyle Chung. I see Kyle Chung. Tip of the cap to Kyle Chung there as well. Great job on Just Dubs yesterday. Austin Scott, Michael Connell of our digital team here tonight. Just having a brew, I think, more than anything. Enjoying the vibes here at Harmonic Brewing. We will talk to you Friday, but keep it locked right here. Best Dubs coverage in the Bay. It's KNBR 104.5 and 680, the